He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
Oh, it is a Hawaiian shirt Friday. Do you guys want to party? Should we party with Robert Kennedy and Bernie Sanders?
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Absolutely, we are. We're supportive of Robert Kennedy, too, who got through, confirmed. Amazing. A guy who was a lifelong Democrat, environmental lawyer, fought all this waste from the pharmaceutical industry over his life, and a green guy. And now he gets confirmed with Republican support so he could try to end the chronic disease epidemic. What a controversial pick. Really noteworthy. Track these Democrats. Fetterman never votes right. Sanders never votes right. There's just no hope for any of them. Even cocaine Mitch McConnell votes wrong all the time. I mean, people don't care anymore. Trump was dunking on him at the Oval Office. I will refrain from playing that. I will say it is a Hawaiian shirt Friday. I had a gorgeous new Hawaiian shirt that was given to me by my wonderful mother-in-law, who's a listener of the show. So Mrs. Dr. Marlow's mom. And it was really classy, looking good. And I took it off to go on Laura Ingram's show. We had technical difficulties trying to record this show earlier. That's why it's coming out late. We're going to work this out, guys. We're new at this. We're brand new at it. But we're off to a slow start today, but we got good stuff to talk about. And I really do want to encourage all of you to go back if you've not caught my interview with Senator Ernst, if you've not caught my interview with Senator Lee. Big stuff this week for the Alex Marlow Show. Pretty good, pretty hot list of guests. I'm trying to keep the guests super high impact, or I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to take the time. I want to start today with this unbelievable story of JD Vance going to the Munich Security Conference. A bunch of globalists and going in their face saying democracy is what we're fighting for. Immigration is the biggest threat. And the biggest threat is what is within. It's not from without. So the biggest security threat is actually what is being done by the permanent political classes of these various countries in Europe. And that's what's eating Europe alive. Let's hear from the vice president.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America.
That's right. They're retreating from their fundamental values. They are not believing in freedom. They're not believing in borders, things that are just fundamental for having strong nations. I have a huge breakdown of this at our Breitbart Confidential show that I do with John Carney at Breitbart News. So if you want more, we do about 30 minutes on the speech. I won't spend quite that much time here, but I do recommend you become Fight Club members to support Breitbart, support me. And we do more about this. But the essence of this speech is it's an America First speech. It's a nationalist speech. So what nationalism, it isn't about race. It isn't even about America is the only good country on earth. It's a better way to run the world when you have strong nations. Strong nations make good neighbors. Those of you who've been with me a while have heard me make this point, but it's so fundamental that you can see all of these globalists in Europe. They have no idea what he's talking about. They're completely flabbergasted by what he's saying. What he's saying is that your obligation is to be a strong country, and some of the tenets of being a strong country is you need to be able to have freedom of speech. You need to be able to have a border. You need to be able to have a sense of who's coming in and out. He has a list within this speech. It goes about 3 minutes of infringements on freedoms, basic freedoms, freedom of speech. And he goes country by country throughout Europe. So not just Germany where he is. He takes examples from all over the country. The most unbelievable one is this man who got arrested for praying outside of an abortion clinic for his unborn son who was terminated in the womb, and he regretted it, and he turned to God, and he was praying at the abortion clinic, and that got him locked up. And he ended up having to pay the prosecution's legal bills. Vance walks through all this. Shocking stuff, incredibly moving. And also, it shows you a sign of a continent that just does not desire freedom. They're marching towards authoritarianism. And the authoritarianism isn't centralized in the various executive branches of these countries. It's centralized in these superstates. So Vance coming over there and giving it to them, saying that this is the threat to national security, is that you guys don't value freedom. You guys don't value democracy. It's good stuff. Let's hear some more.
Who gets to be a part of our shared society? And of all the pressing challenges that the nations represented here face, I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course it's gotten much higher since. And we know the situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade.
Yeah, and this is a great point also. Another fundamental one that we blow through, and we shouldn't, which is that our massive levels of immigration are conscious. So it is not something that is just happened to us. No, we did it to ourselves. We kept the border open and we allowed for all the H-1B abuse, visa overstays, chain migration, all the things that we've done. And Europe is similar, if not worse, scenarios. They've got their Schengen rules where basically once you get into the EU state, you can traverse from state to state and kind of post up there however long you want. It is all these things where we should note that this is by design. So why are they doing this? They're doing this to water down the cultures of these various countries because they want to have a one world culture that's controlled by globalists like the UN and not allow various nations to have their own cultural identity and a strong identity. So it makes it so that countries are not homelands. They're not places where citizens are. It's where people are residents. And this is a big point because if you have people who do not have deep ties, be it familial ties, values, culture, roots, then that's when things start getting much more chaotic, and that allows for the authoritarians to grab more power. This is all basic stuff. And, you kind of pick up on it at some point in your life and the light bulb goes off. So hopefully that was a moment like this for some of these people, this Munich conference, or these people watching at home.
We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place? It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States.
Yeah, he's talking about the recent terror attack from the person who's apparently, well, I'll say that just in case, apparently a migrant.
As well, an asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. Another just simple, brilliant point is that no voter voted for this. There's no voter that said that we want to have open borders. They're voting on other stuff. Some of them were conscious of this and voted wrong anyway. But there's no one who really wants this. There's no real person who is at an individual level. This is at these are the control oligarchs, as my friend Seamus Bruner would say. Those are the ones who are pushing this on us. The oligarchs aren't really touched by this stuff in their day-to-day life, other than that their stock goes up a little bit when the wages of workers go down. Those are the people who are orchestrating this. The people who are insulated from the bad, and they benefit a little bit financially from the sheer number of bodies that have accumulated. And they don't like the cultures anyway of the West, so they're trying to undermine them at all. I have no idea what they want to replace it with. Just generic globalist secularism, I guess. But they don't really have a good sense of what they're going to replace us with, but they certainly do want to replace us. That's very clear.
You know what they did vote for? In England, they voted for Brexit, and agree or disagree, they voted for it. And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration. Now, I happen to agree with a lot of these concerns, but you don't have to agree with me. I just think that people care about their homes.
Yeah, the fundamental good stuff. And finally, I got one more. Let's play this one. This is about what it's all about.
recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election. He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany too. Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard.
Yeah, so they all are talking about advancing democracy when it really has nothing to do with democracy. It has to do with the exact opposite. This is one of the left's favorite moves. They do projection. They will, I guess the term is so played out now, but it's gaslighting. They tell you they're doing one thing, they're really not doing that. And they're trying to convince you that's what they're doing. The biggest threats to democracy that we're witnessing right now in America are from these left-wing lawfare judges. They don't accept the results of the election, of the 2024 election. They did not accept the results of the 2026 election. You know, their top lawfare guy, Mark Elias, remember, he sued over Dominion voting machines. So he's an election denier, if there ever was one. So when you hear someone who is a card-carrying member, I'm not talking about, liberals in your life, but I'm talking about a card-carrying member of the globalist activist left, and you hear them say something, never take them literally. Try to understand what they're going for. They use the word democracy as a tool to push authoritarianism, to push centralized control, and to use it to demonize people with whom they disagree, like us. So we have a certain set of values. They don't like those values. So they brand us as against democracy because they feel like if they can brand us as against democracy, then we can be completely dismissed as bad people. So that's what they're trying to do with every element of Trump's agenda. They're going to just try to find that simple little idea that they can implant in the heads of their voters to delegitimize the effort. And we're witnessing it with, there's not really working, but they're trying it with Doge. They're trying to act as though that there is, these hackers are hacking in, taking your personal information. And we learned from Senator Ernst yesterday in the show that it's the exact opposite. They're working with agency officials. They're gaining access through agency officials. People who are completely certified to work on the systems that they're working on. The Doge guys are good at querying and asking the right questions and figuring out what's actually going on, but they're doing it all above board, and they're doing it with people who work at these agencies. She's working through those agencies. There's not really any hacking of personal information, but yet if you watch the regular news, that's what you're being told every single day. That's what's happening. That's what you're being told.
The government just argued in court that your cash isn't your property. Let that sink in. If Washington can claim your money isn't really yours, what's stopping them from freezing bank accounts, seizing retirement funds, or wiping out wealth overnight? Nothing. Here's the good news. Gold and silver are real property. That's why the smart money is moving fast. Priority Gold put together a free wealth defense guide exposing a little-known IRS loophole that lets you legally shield your savings with physical gold and silver. Text FREEDOM to 24999 now and get your free copy, or visit PriorityGold.com before it's too late.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden, the left has got themselves in a position where they're just uniformly defending all sorts of government waste. I mean, I still can't stop thinking about that example that Ernst cited of the guy working from his bathtub, like doing the remote work, and how Musk talked everyone into defending condoms to Mozambique, like that was some sort of a essential thing. Americans in general, we do not love the idea of foreign aid. And so defending USAID is basically political suicide. I think we don't love it in general. And when we find out that we're not using it the way it should be used, which is as a quid pro quo where we get something in return, we get security, we get positioning, we get intelligence, we're using it just to export woke. We use it to export the worst ideas Americans have. When we figure out that's what's going on, then Americans are not going to go for that. I mean, that's just politically just as dumb as it gets. And this is what Trump has them doing now, because they've got this math. Their math is Donald Trump is always wrong. So if Donald Trump is always wrong, then it means that the opposite of whatever Trump does is right. And that's how the Democrats just overnight became the party of endless wars. So it was Republicans who were the endless war party, the Cheney party. Trump comes in and says, we're not doing that anymore. And then all of a sudden, Liz Cheney is a potent anti-Trump messenger. And all of a sudden, the Democrats embrace the Cheneys. And now all of a sudden, the Democrats are the war party and we're the peace party. It's just total checkmate. So now they got this. So Trump says USAID is bad. People working in bathtubs remote from federal government while they have a second job is bad. And now all of a sudden, the Democrats are for all this stuff. They're for all this excessive spending. They're against cutting government waste. It is so fundamental that Democrats of yesteryear were pro-cutting government waste. Kennedy, Clinton, Al Gore even. I mean, they were all fundamentally for cutting government waste. That's what they were all about. And or at least partially what they were about. And then now we're at the party where they're standing in the way of Trump trying to make some basic cuts. And Ernst is very encouraging. Makes me feel like we're going to get to that 2 trillion number, maybe even more. But Americans are not comfortable with this. We're generally broke. We're not poor. We're not poor. We make money. We get income. But we're broke. We run out of our money very quickly. People are paying the minimums on their credit cards. They're concerned they'll never get a house. People who are my age and younger, you'll never be able to afford it unless some windfall comes your way. And people don't like that. And they don't want to fund endless wars. And they don't want to fund all this bogus stuff if it's coming out of our coming out of our pockets for taxes, which it is. It's our money. It's not the USAID's money. It's our money. So, and the Democrats, of course, are completely unprepared. They have no idea how to deal with this. And which is why they find themselves all of a sudden supporting all this dumb stuff. Endless wars, NAFTA. And we just want borders, democracy, people having a voice. Vance's whole speech was about the people. It was about trying to give the people a voice. That's what it was about. He wants to have, it's a populist speech because he's a populist guy. And he feels like that if the people have a stronger voice, then things are going to be, we have a better chance than with the elites having dominance over our culture and our societies. The elites have been so dominant for so long, and that has really been what has coincided with, I think, the downfall of the West, is when we went from a democracy populist approach to a sort of corporatist oligarch aristocratic approach. And there's one faction of people, the globalists, who have huge overlap with the modern day Democrats and some of the Republican establishment who want that to continue forever. All right, other stuff in the news. We got a lot of exclusives right now. Breitbart exclusive with Secretary Pete Hegseth saying woke generals will have a different job in due time. Christina Wong is with him in Brussels, Belgium right now. I wonder if she's doing the workouts. Christina Wong is a gym girl. So she's and the Hegseth he's a gym bro. So we got that going. I got an exclusive piece from our friend Charlie Kirk on the nature of democracy. Very timely. Timed that up pretty nice. You get a feel for that stuff, Charlie. So I got that. You all should read that over at Breitbart News as well. Plus my Ernst exclusive. It's not going to stop. Breitbart's hot right now. Not going to stop. We got an exclusive from the Trump White House, Donald John Trump. He's going to halt the federal funding to schools that do require COVID vaccine mandates. So simple, low-hanging fruit. This is not, the Democrats want to start with some extreme example, like, oh, you're going to ban the polio vaccine now? Like, he's starting small. He's starting with something that we can all agree on. Children do not need COVID vaccines. And so any school that's mandating it doesn't get federal funds. Simple, fundamental. You don't have to have a COVID vaccine ever. And you shouldn't have to have it, especially if you're a child. So, and the state compelling your children to get that stuff is evil. It's pure evil. And Trump just saying, well, if you're going to do it, then you don't get federal funds. You're on your own. It's great. All right, other stuff going on. Tom Homan continues to cook. He says AOC is going to be in big trouble now, considering if New York lawmakers are an impediment to illegal alien crackdown. He's teamed up with Eric Adams, the mayor of New York. They were on Fox and Friends this morning. Isn't that awesome? Talking about all the crackdown on illegal immigration. They're going to crack down all the illegals. That's their plan. And AOC is going to stand in the way. And he's sort of floating that if she really keeps it up, then she could be running a big risk here. She could be running a big risk when it comes to her abilities to live as a free person. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe she'll go to jail for something. Who knows? But I wouldn't take it off the table because we're fighting back. And we're going to hold people who are not willing to obey our laws, then we're going to treat them the way they've treated us. And they still do this. Dana Nessel, who is the Attorney General of Michigan, she was on CNN, and she was talking about how Elon Musk Doge is illegal and it's unconstitutional. It's not true. It's completely constitutional and legal. There's nothing that he's doing that's every bit that's illegal at all. This is a political talking point, and it's a signal they're going to continue to lawfare the crap out of the Trump agenda. That's what they're going to keep doing. We'll continue to bring you updates. We got new ones fresh for the show today. A judge, where is it? Coming up, judge temporarily stopping Trump's plan to end funds for trans-use health providers. So Brendan A. Herson is the judge who did this, U.S. District Court of Maryland. I'll dig into him. I'm going to dig into all these guys. But just the latest, and he's blocked a Trump order to end funds for trans use. So this is gender transition stuff. Gross, perverted, trendy leftism. This is why Trump is he's not getting no more nonsense from him. Trump's call for the Department of Education to be closed immediately. This has got to be in response to Musk. Musk was saying that we need to close the Department of Education, or at least cut agencies wholesale. I still like my approach. I brought this up yesterday. I think you just fire everyone. Leave one four-speared furry in there. They can hold down the fort. But he wants to close it down. It's great. Like, why? They do such stupid stuff. Aaron Sirabarium, who is a reporter, a very good reporter, and he's at the Washington Free Beacon mostly. I catch his stuff mostly on Twitter, I have to admit. But after Trump's inauguration, the University of Michigan School of Nursing has axed all of its DEI programs. But wait, he dug deeper and found that actually all of it was just renamed. So they were renamed as the Office of Community Culture, and all the basic DEI stuff is still in full effect. So this is precisely what I've been saying, and we proved it with a few examples at Breitbart that I've gone through on the show in the past. But this is what they do, is they just rename stuff. So they're not necessarily just going to cancel everything. They're going to start renaming it. So they'll tell you, okay, we're out of DEI, we're out of the woke business, no more woke for us. But then what they do is they're just going to rename stuff, keep people in the same jobs. So they could head fake us. And this is part of, unfortunately, with the nature of the shock and awe approach, is we can't necessarily focus quite enough on these, on every single victory to cement it. We got to lock in a lot of these victories, and we're not going to be able to cement all of it because they're going to be able to put one over on us from time to time, which they've done here. And it's good for reporters to keep flagging it. And we need it. We need people to be vigilant and diligent, because there's a lot of people working against us who are going to do it in a covert way. Not everyone will be as stupid as the mainstream of the Democrat Party will just announce their idiocy with public appearances on CNN or with loud protests. So they're going to do some of that, but a lot of them are just going to try to do stuff more subversively, because that would be more effective if they do that. So that's why we got to stay vigilant, stay diligent, and keep running up victories. Stay on that war footing. This is not peacetime yet. We were nowhere close to peacetime. It is nice, though, when they make our job easy by just holding up a hand and embarrassing themselves, like Caitlin Collins has been doing over at CNN. I'll play you a clip of her in the Oval Office and Trump dunking on her. This is awesome. Check this out.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
We haven't asked you to speak yet, please. Right?
Yeah, so he just shuts her down like she wants to ask about the egg prices and the tariffs. Like, no, I wouldn't call on you, please. I'm signing stuff. I got my photo op going. Stop distracting me, little girl. Like, that's really what he's saying. But the egg prices, she's just reading prompter and stuff. I thought she was smart. Am I wrong? Because the egg prices is not good. John Carney walked us through this on my Breitbart Confidential show. We spent a lot of time on this from 2 days ago. So go back and check that out, Fight Club members at Breitbart. But he explains it. It's the egg prices are due to avian flu. There's a bird flu right now. That's why egg prices are high. So are you going to be so dishonest that you're not going to bring that up? So everyone is this dishonest. They're just repeating this talking point. This is what I say about the gaslighting, where they just repeat something enough and then they think it's going to become true one day, like the Russian collusion hoax. Just repeat it for years. The Charlottesville hoax, the find people on both sides. If you repeat a lie enough times, then maybe one day it'll become true. So, but that's not actually how the world works. If you repeat stuff that's false, it still remains false. So the egg prices are up because, first of all, Biden inflation, and second of all, the bird flu. So, which is, I don't know if we're blaming Trump for bird flus. He's been in there for 3 weeks. So no one is, because they would if they could, but they can't. So yeah, we're going to have to deal with some inflation. Inflation's too high. It's too hot. But it's so disingenuous to bring up the egg stuff. And he's interrupting his moment. But I gave her credit for the boldness. It's very bold to stand up there and just the camera work here was awesome. I watched a Fox News clip of it, and it just, it pans over to Collins and right back to Trump. Here he is in his moment. Happy about all this. Scott Besson elaborated on what the tariff plan is, and for most countries, it's just going to be, we're going to set the tariffs to zero if you tariff us at zero. It's reciprocal. Trump is obsessed with this concept of reciprocal tariffs, and I think it's pretty smart. So the plan with the tariffs is you use it as a weapon, as a cudgel. You beat people with it, like we did with Colombia, like we're doing with Mexico, like we're doing with Canada to get stuff we want. The great state of Canada. Trump was calling Trudeau governor again this week, which I love that. I love when he calls him governor. But the goal is, unless we want something specific, that's not really what we're trying to, we're not just trying to punish people, we're trying to get stuff out of them. So if they got tariffs on us, and we'll put our tariffs to zero, if you put your tariffs to zero, that's it. That's what we're doing. So, and he notes that any price increase is going to be slight and it's going to be transitory, and inflation is going to eventually fall, especially if we keep cutting the way we're going to cut, the way we are cutting. So, this is happening. And it's going to blow people's minds. I want it to happen quick so we don't lose too much news cycle, which we could end up losing some news cycle. We could end up losing some news cycle if we have to talk too much about egg prices and, prices being high. But overall, I think we're on the right path. We're doing the right stuff. We're making the right moves. And I think Trump sees the long-term vision. It's very good. All right. Other stuff that I want to highlight for all of you that I think is important. We got the Pope hospitalized for bronchitis, and he's canceled his audiences. I'm not a fan of this Pope. Obviously, I wish for I don't wish any personal ill, but he's more concerned about America's immigration laws than he is about the state of the Catholic Church, which is doubly frustrating for me as a immigration hawk who's a member of the Catholic Church. So just keep me posted on that. He seems to be on Health Watch, getting old. Karen Bass of LA, the mayor, says her Ghana trip was absolutely a mistake. So that's definitely a clear thing that she sees it. Somehow she's got to admit defeat, mess that one up. She's going to go. She'll lose to someone in the mayorship. I'm much more concerned about Newsom, that he could evade and avoid blame. So I think that's really what we got to keep our eye on. But she's on the ropes. Fun content over at Breitbart, our entertainment page, with Disney. Disney really struggling now with the DEI stuff. They've got a new movie out this weekend, Captain America: Brave New World. Some of the lowest scores ever for a Marvel movie on Rotten Tomatoes. And they've got a black Captain America, Anthony Mackie, who's a good actor, but then he went overseas and was saying Captain America isn't associated with America and American values. So that's not good. That was not good marketing. I think people wanted Chris Evans back as Captain America, but Chris Evans didn't want to do it. I don't know. I don't get Chris Evans. He doesn't do it for me, but I guess he does it for some people. So some people are upset that he's gone. But Disney's in a bad spot because they have huge internal strife over the DEI. Because as I brought up recently, they have a brand that has a lot of conservatives who consume it. But now, and they have a CEO who's clearly woke. And a lot of their workers are woke. A lot of their workers are, Disney adults, which are people who are obsessed with Disney way into their adult years, which are going to be woke people by and large. And so now these DEI people who love the woke stuff, they love the trans men with the periods in the kids' cartoons. They love the gay storylines being shoehorned into stuff like Buzz Lightyear and Toy Story. They love all that stuff. Those people are not happy that the word's coming down. We got to cut the DEI. So I don't think this is going to be very good for business for them. So we're keeping a close eye on this. The staffers feel abandoned by Bob Iger, who's their woke CEO, for pandering to keep MAGA happy. How great is that? Is it MAGA or MAGA? I always say MAGA because then I don't have to deal with that. So now they got this movie out. Protesters are disrupting screenings, chanting Free Palestine, boycott Disney. It's great. They're another signal that they're moving in the right direction. Reluctantly, slowly. They've watered down their stupid trigger warnings on older movies. If you guys watch any Disney, and I do, I want to be open with the audience. I'm not a Disney boycotter. I'm deeply unsatisfied with Disney, but you look at some of these shows that are on Netflix, and they're just pure rotting your kid's brain. And if you look at the executive board at Netflix, they donate more overwhelmingly to Democrats than any other tech company, period. Jerome Hudson did the pick and shovel work for this at Breitbart. It's like 100-1 Netflix donates to Democrats over Republicans. So, I mean, so what's the move here? If there's going to be any TV on in the house, the older Disney stuff is the best stuff. It just is. And Disney's got Bluey, which is the best kid show of all time. I could do a long time on Bluey if on a show where I have more energy. I'll do a big soliloquy on the importance of Bluey in any child's life. But it's so boycotting Disney is a fool's errand. It is. So we would rather them reform and be better, and they're starting to. So they put these woke warnings in the trigger warnings on top of their older and typically better movies. Disney titles like The Jungle Book, Peter Pan, The Aristocats, really good one. If you guys are wondering where I got Duchess for Duchess Marlow, the nickname for my girls, I think you may have figured it out. Duchess Marlow Jr. I'm getting ready to hang out with them. I'm about 10 minutes away, starting the weekend here with Duchesses. The Swiss Family Robinson, others. John Nolte calls it vandalism. That's exactly what it is. He's our senior writer at Breitbart. Peter Pan, it's very shocking that you turn on a family-friendly, wholesome Disney show and they'll put some warning on how the program has negative stereotypes of certain people. And it used to be much longer. They've watered it down, but eventually they got to get rid of it because the woke moment's over. And anyone who believes that the woke moment is going to continue, I think is completely out of touch with where reality is. They're not appealing. We don't like them. And we don't like the woke trajectory of this country. I think that's very clear. I think it's very clear that people have spoken and they are no longer in the market for any of this woke nonsense. All right. Aloha at alexmarlow.com if you want to be a part of the show. Let's take a close. Let's keep an eye on some Democrats. Let's see how they're doing. I always like to check in. We saw Caitlin Collins lie about egg prices. What else we got? Let's see how Al Green is doing. I want to play some Al Green. Maybe I'll spin some Al Green tonight when I'm cooking. It's Valentine's Day. I didn't even say Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Misty. I didn't say Happy Valentine's Day to you. That was rude. Hope you have a nice thing cooked up. I'm thinking about doing a nice meal for Mrs. Dr. Marlow. I got to get to the store. Maybe I'll play some Al Green. Or is that too on the nose? You guys know what I'm talking about. If you start playing the Al Green, it's pretty overt what you're after. Anyway, I'm digressing too much. Let's play this clip.
We can prevent a president from defying court orders with impeachment. Impeachment in two senses of the word. Two senses. One, it can act as a deterrent. The other is it can act as a means of removal. If a president defies a court order, we can remove him, but let's not go there just now. Let's talk about deterrence. I learned from the last time I engaged in this impeachment process of the value of deterrence, impeachment as a deterrent. And here is how it works. If a president believes that he will be impeached for defying a court order because he will in effect become the law of the land, we will no longer be a land of where laws govern, but a land where a man governs or a woman governs, a person governs. And we are a land of laws, and we want to.
Yeah, I love what they do when the woman governs. We have not had a woman governing yet. We've tried, and Trump keeps beating them. So it's funny. There's this famous clip of this football player. I got to pull this one up. We got to have this in the archives where he talks about going upside a man or a woman's head in a football game, an NFL football game. One of you remind me of this clip and email me, aloha@alexmarlow.com. This is a famous clip. But there's been no women in the NFL. So you can't go upside a woman's head, the NFL. But it's the woke PC stuff. Like, what if a woman governed us this way? Like, well, it hasn't happened. I love it. I'll tell you why I love this impeachment stuff, because when you're watering down one of their tools, if Trump can get impeached now when his popularity is soaring, when everyone acknowledges he's just going about he's going about his promises, he's keeping his promises, then it's impeachment means nothing. If you're going to impeach a guy for keeping his promises, then the word means nothing. It's meaningless. The first impeachment of Trump was pretty meaningless. They'll try to impeach him again, too. If the election doesn't go well in 2026, they will, I think. I think they'll impeach him again. But it's good. Keep it up. Al Green, I appreciate it. And let's stay together. Loving you forever. All right. You guys remember that clip I played with the Pod Save America guys? We're talking about we should have done this stuff. We should have cut the government this way. People love it. People like a cut government. We like the government trim. Nice and tidy. All right. Let's see. We got, this was a fun one that Misty reminded me of. So the Park Services erased transgender on the Stonewall website, Stonewall National Monument website. And it seems pretty non-controversial. Well, a dance protest broke out at the Stonewall Museum. Missing some visuals here. A lot of trans flags, a lot of masks. The song's kind of a bop, though. I want to play that again. They got nothing. That's why we keep checking in. Just see, I'm trying to figure out if they're going to come up with something good. They can't decide if they're outraged or they're having a great time. And this is where I guess it's just a social thing, but it's the trans protests at it's over. We're moving on from the trans stuff, and we're going to get more extremist unless you guys let us. You guys are going to have to take the W. Take the L here. You take the loss. We get the W. All right, here is one from a Democrat that Misty recommends I play, and I always take Misty's advice and recommendations. I got one more clip, just another Democrat check-in. Let's do it.
I was enormously disappointed by the speech.
This is Rep. Chrissy Houlihan from Pennsylvania, from the House Armed Services Committee.
It was in no way, shape, or form what I would have hoped for from the Vice President of the United States of America.
Obviously, we're talking about the Munich speech.
United States of America. And why was that? He spent no time talking about Ukraine. He never once said the word Ukraine or Russia, as far as I remember. And rather, he spent the time, curiously enough, criticizing the European continent for the very things that we in the United States struggle with ourselves. And I felt like it was sort of a pot and kettle situation, where I felt like I wasn't really sure why that moment in our history, our collective history, needed to be about that subject. I felt like it needed to be about whatever the Wall Street Journal article you were talking about was. I feel like that's much more appropriate than the language that was here. So I walked away, to be honest, feeling, and I'm going to say it out loud, I felt like that I am sorry. I'm sorry for that speech for the continent of Europe, and I'm sorry for a significant population of America, maybe the majority of America, who I think will be disappointed with the tone.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the Democrats are relying on the Wall Street Journal for their misinformation now. Interesting. They've got some really bad reporters over there. We have a big article on them taking some of Vance's comments and basically misinterpreting them completely and just trying to gin up war, really. I mean, it just feels like they're trying to create tension between Russia and Ukraine. Trump and Vance are going to come in. They're going to make peace. This is my prediction. They're going to make peace. They're going to figure it out. The Democrats are really on the march when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. We saw the NATO membership that I noted is the key for this war persisting, dangling this in front of Ukraine. And Roger Wicker, who is a Republican from Mississippi, he was out there basically floating the NATO stuff still, suggesting that Pete Hegseth had messed up when he had said that the NATO membership's off the table. So I want to be very careful here. The war party wants Ukraine in NATO. Ukraine cannot be in NATO. There cannot be any hint that Ukraine can ever get to NATO. So very important to keep vigilant here. You keep super vigilant on that issue, because that's how global war could break out and get much worse. And it's just amazing that you got a Democrat apologizing to Europe because the newly elected vice president gave a terrific speech about the importance of populism and free speech. They're cornering themselves to being against borders and against free speech, against us having any culture whatsoever. They just want endless amounts of money to flow to Ukraine, even though we already lost $99 billion. Where'd that go? So good. Let's make that be their positioning. I think we're in a terrific shape as a party and as a movement, if that's where they are. And they're so sad too. This is another one, Misty, we have an assignment now. We got to pull the saddest Democrat of the day. They come off as so sad now. The Kara Swisher clip that we played yesterday on yesterday's show with Senator Ernst, it's the later in the show I played. really unbelievable how the amount of sadness that we're seeing from them. They're lost. I would be sad too if I was them. I understand this, but it is. I want to play it because I want to remind us that we're the fun ones now. We're having a great time. We should have a great time. This is a celebration. We got a lot of work to do, but we have all the ingredients to be able to win. We've got low-hanging fruit. We got the momentum. We've got easy wins to rack up, and they're completely lost. They're in this weird position. They're defending all these horrible ideas. All right, that'll be the meat of the show. Let's do some email. aloha@alexmarlow.com. I got a lot of email on whether or not I should go to a sick show. We'll get to some of that. Let's see. Okay, here's a Paula Wall, new listener. Hi, Alex. I've been a longtime Breitbart reader. I enjoy your podcast. You have clarity. Plus, you're living the full Democrat state. Your perspective is priceless. I live in Minnesota, and we are dealing with a Democrat trifecta. Now the GOP is the majority by one seat, and then we have a special election for seat 40B because the Democrat that won that seat got caught living in another district and just rented an apartment to claim he'd residence. I'm involved in GOP, so we're working hard to get the Republican that lost and is running again for the seat. You guys got to get involved. So if you're in Minnesota and you're in the Marlow audience, you're in the Breitbart audience, go get involved. Let's go. Rack up victories. Now's the time. This is the time. We got to do it. Thanks, Paul, for reaching out and for your support. All right. I got a great grilling spice recommendation. Guys, I will take the recommendations on the recipes and I will reply. We will have lighter shows in the future where I will get to go deep in some recipes with you guys. Not right now, though, but I got some great recipes. I will take them and I will try to do that. All right. Let's see. What else? Who else we got? All right. Oh, boy. I'm going to botch this name. I'm just going to say Joanna from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm sorry, Joanna. I'm taking a pass on the name. Hi, Alex. Definitely love the idea of a weekend show. Being on the East Coast, I normally listen to your shows in the following morning. Selfishly, this would provide content for me on Monday morning. It's not selfish. It's great. If people want more Marlow, then I'm going to have to oblige at some point. I like your idea to maybe release an interview over the weekend, and I'll buy a Juvent. If you do it, that's a great call. Juvent, Juvent, great sponsor, terrific people, $500 off. You do the code Marlow, juvent.com/Marlow. You got to do it. That's a little free ad for them. So it's they can be pricey, but they got the financing and they got the guarantee they'll buy it back for you. So, yes. So this is the conversation. Should I go to 1 more hour a week? My thinking is, if you guys missed yesterday's show, my thinking is I like the long form interviews and maybe we standardize it at 1 a week. And so you get your news updates every day. And then once a week, I can do one of those deep dives that I like to do because I feel like you can really get to know some really interesting people. And I've got a really cool Rolodex. So I want to do that. And so I'm thinking about it. Please weigh in. Let's see. Christopher McCumber, MD, MBA. Oh, my goodness. He's a busy guy. So he's a robotic surgery medical tech. Okay, that would make sense. Okay. Christopher McCumber says, I would do one more show, preferably on a Saturday. Yeah, I'm deciding between Saturday and Sunday. It feels like I like Sunday better, but maybe Saturday. There's always a lack of content the weekends to keep up with everything that happens on Friday or Friday afternoon or evening. It's a good call. I always find myself looking for your podcast and have to wait until sometime on Monday after work for you to come out. Be great to hear from you and get a recap of the week and any last minute news from the end of Friday. So I can track how the show's doing roughly on Apple podcasts. And it really does kind of fall back. Like it charts pretty high and it kind of crests to a peak on Saturdays typically. And then it falls back pretty hard by the time the Monday show comes out. That's part of my concern is that I want to keep it hot and fresh. So clearly you lose momentum during that time frame. So Chris is exactly the person that I'm talking to. People are accustomed to getting the show, but then you got to have a big gap of, 3 days. It's a long time. So it could be from Friday night all the way to Monday night. And it's a long time. So, all right, going on. I think it would be great if it was your news rundown and commentary. The interviews are great, but sometimes if you don't have a lot of time getting your summary of the more important stories, that's what I really love. Again, the interviews are great, but I don't always have time to listen. And I find myself looking through my podcast library, and I find myself always going to the newest episodes that are news rundowns. Okay. Love the show. Keep it up. And then he does some very lovely comparing of me to Rush Limbaugh, which is premature, but you know what? I'm ambitious. I would love to be the best talker in all of talking. I will try my best. I absolutely will try my best to deliver all of you the absolute best broadcast you can get anywhere in podcasting and now on the Salem News Channel. So that's new. If you're a Salem News Channel subscriber, I think it's in most homes at this point. My shows will be showing up on the weekends as well. That's a work in progress that we're just getting going. It's getting going this weekend. So tomorrow, if you're hearing this show fresh. All right, that's good. That's a good effort for Friday evening. I hope all of you have a terrific Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoy some winning over the weekend. Maybe fire up on those Solaire grills that I know all of you are buying over the week. That'd be good. Supporting our sponsors and supporting us over at Breitbart News. I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Misty. Thank you, this terrific audience. Send me all those emails, subscribing, etc. Helps me so much. I'll talk to you next week.